You wrote another book called Sexual Agreements.
Yes, I wrote that. That was actually my first book. And I wrote that after traveling to New Zealand and Australia for about 6 years. And when we would leave, we would sort of land this explosion, and there was all this freedom and openness and people wanting to explore and feeling that, they had this new sexual power and they wanted to explore. And then I would get all these letters and all these emails and phone calls and stuff, and it was just a mess. I mean, people did not know what to do with this freedom, right? And I realized that we really didn't have a map of how do you really manage this expression and this freedom with great.
So let me ask you: do you mean agreement in a sense of contract, or is it more like an inner agreement?
Well, first of all, what I say about sexual agreements is that everybody has them. Everybody has a sexual agreement, even if you never heard of that. It might be unconscious because you've never talked about it. So what I do is I say, if you're going to spend a lifetime with somebody or a few years, hey, you better talk about these. What are your bottom line agreements? What do you really want sexually? What do you really need sexually? What do you desire sexually? People don't talk about this. So that's number one, is just to realize, hey, it's not about making a contract in stone and to say, okay, these are the rules and this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. Really, what I say is a sexual agreement is a living entity. It's constantly changing. Why? Because our needs are constantly changing. Our desires are changing. And so this needs to be talked about not once in a relationship, not just at the beginning, but all the time. And what I talk about in this book is how to do this. What happens when somebody breaks the agreement? What happens when you make a mistake? How do you come back together and negotiate that? Mm-hmm. And so there's even in there a clause for spontaneity. What happens when something happens out of the blue? What do you do with that?
No, it's very true. An agreement is very helpful because it clarifies things. And it says, this is what you do, this is what I do. And it also helps you understand what it is that you need, what it is that you want, and what is hot for you. Can you give an example of a sexual contract, a sexual agreement?
Well, yes. In my own relationship, I do have an agreement where if I meet someone and I would like to be intimate and engage sexually, I have the freedom to do this. And there are certain details within the agreement. The most important feature is that I must share what I've learned and what I've experienced and what I've gained, and bring back what I experienced with another back into my intimate relationship. And so I know this is a big subject, and it's a big reason why people want to make agreements, is so they could have more freedom. And I just want to say that, I don't recommend everybody opens their relationships, and I don't recommend that, this is some higher form or evolved state if you have an open relationship. I think some people really grow and mature better in singular monogamous relationships. But for those that choose to explore having someone outside their primary relationship, or maybe having multiple relationships that can come in many different forms, there are much better guidelines that can happen, and much more clear agreements about being honest, about being clear, and as you said earlier, about having integrity about what you're asking for, to tell the truth and to be honest. When we realize that this is constantly changing, and that we can grow with agreements, and we can grow into them, and we really can learn from our mistakes. You can guarantee that you're going to make mistakes in this, and that there are going to be times where it's like, wait a minute, I thought we meant this. Well, the other person thinks, well, I thought it meant this. And so that's where most of the trouble comes in, is because we think we know what the agreement is, but in fact we really haven't well communicated. So that's one of the things we talked about earlier. Was we talked about the talking stick and that ability to listen to each other. And so I've begun doing talking stick sessions with couples on Skype, where they're together in a room, and I am sort of this observer witness, and they're going through a talking stick session.
For people who don't know what the talking stick is, it's a Native American ritual. It's an actual stick, sometimes beautifully decorated with feathers and jewelry. And originally, in a group of people, the person who holds the stick is the person who talks, like the microphone, in fact. And when I'm done talking, I pass the stick on, and it's my turn to listen. If you are in a couple, then it's not a group of people, but it's very helpful because it forces you to listen. So when I have the stick, you can't interrupt me. I'm speaking, and I will hit you with the stick. If you no, you can't interrupt me. And you have to wait until you get the stick, and then you can share. And this changes the focus from also attacking each other or battling from just making it a sharing.
And we just add one thing to that, in that if I'm speaking, you've got to repeat the essence of what I said. So you really have to listen. You can't.
That's an empathy. That's an empathy. Empathy thing.
Yes, and then you can again respond, but you actually have to remember what I said. Okay, which
that's what your clients have to do.
Yes. Okay. Yes, they have to repeat. What I heard you say is this, and so on. And so it's really one of the most simple tools. And yet I found recently I'm getting a lot of requests to do this on Skype because it works. Because that's really, after it's all said and done, the missing piece. You asked me earlier. The missing piece for couples is what's not happening. We can't hear each other. We can't hear what the other really wants. We only hear what we think they said. We haven't heard what they actually said. And this heals many, many problems in relationships. If we can simply hear and listen, then we can understand. We might not agree, but we can at least hear and understand, and then we can make a better agreement in the future.
How can people reach you?
Well, you can go to my website, amaracharles.com, and I guess that's the best way. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter and all of the social media at Amara Charles.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of calls.